Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for coming and joining us this morning. We are here to talk about ChatGPT and what I like to think of as an AI revolution, so to speak, because there's a lot going on with it if you haven't seen it so far. And this course really is meant to, it's more of an introductory course, but if you've already dipped your toe into ChatGPT and started to use it a little bit towards the end, I do go in live and we're going to do some scenarios and situations that I'll pull up that you could use in your everyday life as a real estate agent. And kind of, I'd like to give you a few ideas that maybe you haven't thought of before, or that application and how to use it specifically for your business as well. So welcome. Again, my name is Jennifer McAlpine, and just a little bit about me. I promise I won't spend all the time on me. We're definitely not going to do that. But I'm a marketing technology director with MyHome, which is a part of the underwriter WFG, Williston Financial Group. And I've been in this role for a little over 2 years, and I work with title agents and provide courses to real estate agents as well. And my background is I have about 18 years of marketing experience. I've headed strategy for small and large corporations. And kind of my history is really in tactical, traditional, and like not so traditional marketing, kind of thinking outside the box. And before I came into this role, I actually was at Compass Real Estate. I was their head of marketing for the Northern California division. At the time, was the biggest division in the US with about 3,500 agents and over 50 employees. I started in real estate working for a small boutique brokerage in Silicon Valley, originally from California, Northern California, moved to Florida in 2019. I actually live in St. Petersburg right now. And I started working for a company called Alon Pinnell. They had been in Silicon Valley, headquartered in Saratoga, if you know where that is. And they had been around for 25 plus years. They had a deep roots in luxury, but their concept was, yes, we deal with luxury homes for the most part, but our belief and our core values are surrounding, we want to make sure to give our customers a luxury experience each and every time. That very much resonated with me. My previous life, I actually worked in e-commerce for over 10 years. And if you follow golf, like golf at all, I worked for Pebble Beach Company and headed their e-commerce division for 5 years. So just a little bit about me, and it gives you a little bit more about my background. So let's dive in. So we're talking about artificial intelligence, specifically ChatGPT. And so I like to kind of get a gauge if you start just thinking about it, like where are your comfort levels? Usually I hear kind of across the board, right? So comfort levels are I'm kind of feeling on the fence, not so sure about it. Yeah, I'm not sure, how do I use it in my business? Is this really applicable? That sort of thing, but you're kind of willing to. And then on the other side, you're like, absolutely, I've already started using it. Tell me more. And then on the other side of the fence, that other side, right, is like, yeah, not doing it, right? Maybe it's just something that you're like, look, I'm ready and I'm already in the area that I like and I'm not willing to dive in. So we're going to kind of go over a few different things in this in regards to how to use it and kind of help those situations. So really, I like to toss in a little bit of information and studies and things like that to kind of help talk about this as well. So according to consumer studies, people really want to work with people-powered businesses, right? So when they can relate to the human behind the services and products, they are more inclined to be loyal and to share with their community. This is very prevalent right now, right? It's something that you see all over social media. Like, this is what's really helping businesses on social media, is where that connection factor. In fact, due to when we had the pandemic, the importance of community and humanity are really at a premium. People want that connection, right? I think we all know that. So today I'd like to have a conversation around this newer type of tech that is developing really at a rapid rate. And I want to kind of come at it in a way where it's going to solve two of your entrepreneurial pain points and put more time back into your business day while helping you write content, right? Content is like oh my gosh, it takes up so much of our business. And if you're like me and anybody else that's not a natural writer, even though I've been in marketing for so many years, like writing does not come naturally to me. I've had to work at it years over years and be able to perfect it to where I'm even at this point. So this is what we're going to talk about today, solving for those two pain points, putting more time back into your day, and really kind of learning how ChatGPT can help you with that copy, content, and how that can help you within direction to your business. So what are those pain points? So how can you effectively spend more time nurturing and growing the relationships with the people that ultimately power your business with this type of tool? And at the same time, right, simultaneously ensuring your communication and is attracting your ideal audience rather than repelling them, right? Because we definitely don't want the latter. We don't want to repel them. So creating that content is a part of that people power business that we're involved in so heavily. Some examples of this are email, text responses, email marketing, different things that you're going to put maybe on postcards that you're going to send out to farming, different social media posts. Even if you're creating a video, like what are you going to say in that video? Different reels that you create for social media, different presentations, like what's the content that's going to be put into that presentation, proposals, and so on and so forth. So how can ChatGPT help you in that daily activities to really kind of streamline that process and give you more time back into your day? I mean, who would not love that, right? So this goes back to that concept of that people power business. When they can relate to the human behind the service and the products, they are more inclined to be loyal and then share with their community, right? That's what we want. That's the what I call like the long tail version of this. We're looking for lifetime customers, just not that immediate conversion as well. We want more. So in fact, due to the pandemic, the importance of that community, as I mentioned, is really at a premium as well. So let's unpack that a little bit. So pre-pandemic, we were in that social setting on that daily interacting with colleagues, family, friends, and people in our community. But during the pandemic, we turned to search engines to ask the same questions that we would to our family and friends. Like an example of this would be, who is the best, whatever service, gardener, interior designer, or whatever the case may be within my community. And the query for the best reviews for real estate agent in XYZ city went literally through the roof. Like it was all over the place. So reviews intersected with the referral economy, and it isn't really even showing signs of reversing to those pre-pandemic times either. So now, as I kind of bring this all out, would you be open to technology that does both, right? It saves you time while helping you craft your communication as well. So let's start with the concept of more time. So if you're feeling like I do a lot of the time, time itself, right, is a commodity. And that's how I like to look at things, because it is, especially as you're running your own business, time is a commodity. And it seems to be filled with tasks on your to-do list and activities that may or may not be serving you to the best of the purposes. So until now, like these strategies and solutions that maybe you've been employing to streamline your business or time spent is just kind of tapped out, right? That feeling of overwhelm and like, am I doing the right thing? Am I spending my time most effectively? Those are definitely the questions that I hear quite often. So what would you do with more time, right? I bet you already have a list. I always have a list, right? There's always things. I've often said, well, I can't clone myself, so that's not possible. So now I have to think of like how I can spend my time the most effective possible. So would you find more people facing opportunities, since it is the people who ultimately power a business, a greater opportunity, right? How would you really spend that time? So in our careers, a large portion of us, we have already experienced kind of those three time savings, or how I like to think of it, scaling type revolution. So we're going to think of it in terms of that way. And at the time, it seemed to be maybe a little bit foreign, almost ridiculous, and you'll know what I'm talking about in a moment. So when I asked the question to some of you, do you remember the first time you heard the www, like the internet, right? Did you embrace it right away? Or were you like, to the thing of, that's never going to catch on? Or were you that person that said, I love going to the library and I just love being there. And ultimately my Britannicas are the best way to go no matter what. And if you know what a Britannica is, I know you're that person that had the understanding of when the search revolution came out, right? So there's definitely things that have happened that have been like, well, not sure if this is really going to work, or is it something that you've been adopted quite easily, right? It's not like even the concept of when we went to the internet of like how we used to use the yellow pages and how we don't use that as much and how we tend to go towards more social media, Instagram, and things like that to find local businesses. So the next one is cell phone revolution. So then we experienced that mobile phone revolution, right? What changed in your life when you first acquired your smartphone? Like I even remember the transition from a BlackBerry, yes, a BlackBerry that I was never going to give up, right? It was like stuck to my hip. And then I was kind of forced to have to get something else because it was no longer supported when I moved. And I got an iPhone. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like having a computer in your back pocket. Now I thought email was great on the BlackBerry. Well, oh my gosh, it's a totally different story on the iPhone. So those sorts of things, these are transitions and sort of revolutions, so to speak. Then we think of the social media revolution, right? Yes, it has its pluses and it has its minuses, as in everything does. So what was your initial reaction to that crazy idea of friends, like followers, and things like that on social media when that hit the scenes? I remember literally when Facebook came out, and I was living 3,000 miles away from family. I was living in Georgia. They were living in California. And I was just like, I can't like print photos out and send them to everyone. I'm a young mom. I'm working full time. Like that's not happening, right? That's not a good use of my time. And so I said, hey, can all of my family members just get on Facebook? I will share them to you. You could see everything like within a day or so. And it kind of changed things from there. It was so much more efficient for me at that time. And that's how I used it. So with all three of those advancements, change the way we kind of spend our time, we scale like our personal humanity connectedness with people that power our business. So the previous three timing saving revolutions kind of have advanced our abilities really to engage with our ideal audiences for the most part, right? Like I said, there's pluses and there's minuses as well. And so with that, we kind of want to, and that's what I want to introduce here. So we've taken a look at kind of what's been going on previously, and now we're looking at the possibility of really the fourth revolution, and that is AI. And as we go through and as you're seeing different things and kind of hearing on the news of different things that are coming out and different applications of it, maybe the question is, okay, how am I ultimately, can I use that as a part of my business too? So it really has that fourth tech revolution. It's can reach the masses for the most part. And ultimately, it has the potential to really help you spend more time on the right activities, scale yourself and expand your reach, and help you connect in a more meaningful way as well. So I'm sure most of you have seen something on social media, maybe heard it from a colleague or a friend, or have seen it in the news or read an article that may or may not have been from AI. And the newest, AI, artificial intelligence, and more things that have been stemming from this, but the originator was, of course, on this level is ChatGPT. So let's take a look at this a little bit further and a little bit deeper. So going back to November 30th, 2022, OpenAI hit our timelines with their product ChatGPT. And even though AI has been a part of our everyday lives for many years, this is the first time it makes sense as a tech tool for just about anyone in business or not in business or even in your day-to-day life to be able to use. And here's a little bit about it and some stats I like to kind of bring to the fruition and kind of take a look at that show just how ChatGPT stacks up against its predecessors as well. So I want to just step back for a quick second and answer, like sometimes we're like, okay, but what is ChatGPT, right? So the breakdown of that is it's a natural language processing technology that enables machines to understand and generate human-like conversations. And I want to reiterate that last part, human-like, right? I use it on a regular daily basis, a lot for brainstorming and things like that, and I have directed it to use my own voice in writing, it still doesn't get it right. So it's something that I use for brainstorming, generating, like thinking through ideas, and helping me getting from point A to point B significantly quicker. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that as well. So language patterns also. ChatGPT understands the pattern in languages and uses them in it to write in a natural style according to the voice you ask it in. So this is what, yes, it does. Absolutely. Like, if you wanted to write a description using the voice of Eminem, like you could literally do that. Or if you wanted to use it in a certain voice, but it doesn't mean it's going to be exact. It's going to be somewhat like, and it's going to take some modification on your part, but ultimately it cuts out significant amount of time where you maybe would take you an hour and a half to do something. It could take you 10 minutes. So with that, let's take a look at a few different stats regarding this tool of ChatGPT and kind of how it does stack up in regards to other types of platforms. So I like to take a look at, like, in regards to popularity, the 1 million users registered mark. And if we kind of take a look at other things, if you know WhatsApp, okay, that took 2 years to get to the 1 million users registered mark. Instagram took 2 years, Snapchat took 1 year, Facebook took 10 months, Pinterest took 4 months, and ChatGPT took literally 5 days, right, to get to registered users for the 1 million mark. So that is really significant. It tells you a lot in the sense of people are very interested and it's very popular. So let's take a little bit more and dive into, so what does that mean for you? What does that mean for that AI revelation and revolution and you? So we're back to that kind of conversation around how AI and specifically ChatGPT can give you more time back into your day to spend with people who ultimately power your business, those clients, that sphere, your vendor partners, and your future clients, right? And this is something that really kind of I resonate with because I would get the feedback quite rarely when I work directly with agents on a regular everyday basis was, hey, I need to be out selling and in front of my customers, right? Like I understand I need to do all this operational stuff and marketing stuff on the back end, but how can we make it so I don't spend 75% of my day on it, right? Which makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. So this is definitely one of those ways that can help you do that. So as I prepared to share with you today, I've been dissecting the day of a real life, real estate agent, and kind of came up with a list of some ways that you could, quote unquote, what I like to think of hire as like ChatGPT as what I would think of as your marketing intern. So ultimately, if we break this down, it's kind of a transformer in training. It has been trained to understand natural language and its patterns, and it has consumed all of that has been published up to the internet. Originally, when it first came out, of course, was up to 2021. And they said, okay, if you look back, like we're at the time, I think it was, you look back the previous 2 years, it's not going to be up to date. So already it's okay, well, the previous year, it's not as going to be up to date in content. So it's definitely growing, it's getting better. And like I said, it's learning from itself on a continual basis. So this is also my recommendation with this. If you're using it, let's say for an example of you want to put together information on stats and neighborhood information and things like that, it's great for creating the written content, but if you're referencing numbers, maybe within the past few months and like sales and things like that and turnover rate or anything like that, you're going to want to go gather that information on your own and be able to input that because you want to make sure that that information is always absolutely correct and from a source that you can credit as well. So it's just as a note. And then when using ChatGPT, what tools can you use to generate the information you need? when using ChatGPT, what tools can you generate the information? I'm not sure if I understand that question. And we just got a question in the chat. So when using ChatGPT, what tools can you use to generate the information you need? I'm not sure if I understand the question, because ChatGPT is a tool. If you're wondering like applications of like sending out like product or assets in terms of like postcards and things like that, I mean, you would just go into ChatGPT and I'll be able to have some examples of this in just a little bit when I go in live, is that you're going to generate the content within the tool itself. And so you're going to generate all that information. So let's say you wanted to create an email, you could generate the content, the written form content of that email within ChatGPT, copy and paste it into your like CRM, right? And so with that, you can also have it create a marketing strategy for you. You can also have it recommend, how should I segment my audience? Like maybe I'm primarily, I represent sellers the most, but I am looking to maybe farm a neighborhood. What can I create emails targeting this particular area? And you can give it background information, right? And I'll go over that. So it's kind of the tools that you'd probably already be using. You're just taking that content and putting it in there so you don't have to create it within that other tool as well. A lot of tools now are having a form of AI within the application as well. I've tried a lot of these so far, and it really kind of depends on what you like. Let's say like Canva also has what they call their magic, and it's more beta still, and it's kind of the same functional value as ChatGPT. It's just in the application. And so you don't have to, like me, I have like two screens, so you don't have to like two windows up and then go into one application and go out of the next. And like in Canva, it's something that you can go into and just stay in there and copy and paste. I feel that ChatGPT is more advanced than the one right now in Canva, but the Canva one is coming along very quickly. I've gotten as far as asking ChatGPT, how do you professionally say your summary? Okay, we're going to go over all that stuff. Yeah, and I do have some prompts for you as well at the end that I think should really help you with that. So with that is that, so if you kind of thinking about it in all of these ways, right? Do you kind of get a spark of an idea already, maybe keeping in mind that that content, especially clear content, and creating like the copy that you want to write things is vital to people that ultimately that power their business, right? It's that opportunity to connect with them when thanks when you're not able to be in front of them, right? It's that opportunity to use a tool like ChatGPT to get in front of them, to help you create like that branding, that authentic self that can help you propel you to get in front of them in the ways that they're going to be able to receive. If that makes sense as well. I'll go into more of that. So I'm going to go back here. So that right copy really helps you communicate with that audience. So I know, like I said, I was never a gifted, like naturally gifted writer. Like I've had to really work at it over the years. I have my cousin, she is a like beautiful writer. I'm like, how do you do that? Like you just literally come up with in 2 seconds. So but most of us, we all have writer's block, and it can really just suck the time out of our days, right? Like the idea of like, I know I should probably write a blog. This would be great for me and search engine optimization, getting me out there. And maybe I need to be on YouTube and maybe I need to do all these things, but you're like, okay, what should I write about? This is where ChatGPT really helps. So any of us that are those natural writers, for you, this will be more of the refinement, the creating subject lines, the titles, the brainstorming of the outlines. And then for like a majority of the population, right, it will really help you leveling the playing field and writing and like, lessening that gap you feel of getting those things done. It really condenses the amount of time we are spending on these tasks to get where we really want to be. So I like to think of it as like the 3C motto. With clarity comes confidence, and with confidence comes commission check. So I think, we all can identify with that. So when the audience is clear about your message and intent, they are more likely to hire you. And that's really what we're after. So here's a few use cases, kind of, few big picture use cases you could implement immediately. We're going to go over that. So what if you could perform some of these tasks in just, a fraction of the time that you're spending now? So as I mentioned, creating content is the biggest component of this. It's like the broad spectrum of it, and engaging with potential and existing clients across the board, creating what we call compelling call to action. So an example of this would be maybe if you're having a presentation and you maybe even have a listing appointment, and you're like, how do I get them to be able to answer me in the meeting if they want to hire me? Like, that's something that you could put into ChatGPT and it'll tell you how to do that. Now you want to be able to prompt it and refine it to give the most information that you possibly can. But that would be a call to action, right? It's the same thing like if you're listing, doing something on social media, on Instagram, like what do you want the customer to do and how do you want them to do it? So if you're telling ChatGPT, I want them to be able to contact me about new homes, what would be a great post I can put together to let them know that and create a call to action, and literally using that verbiage to be able to put into to ChatGPT. And again, I have a prompt list that I'll give out at the end that helps you with this as well. So don't feel like you have to come and like usually write notes or anything like that. So also, it helps you showcase your services and expertise as, probably the local authority that you are, right, in the industry, and that it attracts your audience in that ideal way rather than repelling them. It like gives the opportunity to speak to them directly based on their needs and their challenges and how you can ultimately solve for them as well. And then keeping in mind that your message sets the bar for how your audience really perceives you, remembers you, or discounts and forgets you. So it's always something to keep in mind. And then also, of course, brainstorming literally everything. So the thing about ChatGPT, and I'll go into the live version, is that you have an app to be able to use on your phone, and then you can also use it on your computer on a browser. But you can log in to the same account using the one on your phone and then using the one on your computer. And sometimes what I'll do even in the morning is I start to get an idea. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good. How do I work that out? How do I work it out maybe into a post? How do I work it out on LinkedIn? How do I work it out maybe like for a real estate, as in real estate, it's like, how do I position this to be able to get people to use me as their real estate agent? Should I put in a postcard? Should I put it in an email? Like those types of things. Like if you're starting to have that question and you're brainstorming, like talking to ChatGPT in that way, like, I'm a real estate agent. I want to do XYZ. Is this the best way to do it? Do you have any other ideas? Like as simple as that. And that's where you can start. So some of those brainstorming activities also involve maybe content to keywords if you're posting, scripts to like, a handwritten card that you want to create. And then also like reaching into that personal humanity of yourself and creating like, that birthday wish, or maybe like leaving a voicemail, but you're not sure exactly what to say. Like that's where ChatGPT can help out with that as well. Maybe you want to send a quick text after maybe an open house, but you're like, okay, how should I really pose that, And so it can help you out with that way. Or if you want to create a video, like maybe and put it on YouTube, maybe you want to talk about your community or neighborhood a little bit more to showcase like you're the authority for this area, that's where ChatGPT can help you as well. So with that, I can see, there's probably, business plans that you're looking at, even, in the middle of the year. Maybe you're like, okay, I want to change things up a little bit. Maybe I'm doing really well in this area, or maybe there's something that you couldn't get completed that you wanted to do in the first half, and now you're having to move it to the second half. Maybe how that has to do with like, hey, I just don't have the time to dedicate to like some of those things I talked about, right? Maybe it's that blog, or maybe it's that email or something like that. Or I know agents that I'm like, hey, I'm going to commit to 10 handwritten cards a week. And you're like, yeah, I've done two. So maybe, committing to doing that, or maybe you've committed to doing so many home buyer presentations and you've just been like, okay, I feel that I have this already written, but I feel there's something missing, right? That's where ChatGPT can help as well. Did you add maybe, a monthly emails newsletter to your sphere and you're still struggling with it? Rather than just using canned, like branded newsletters that probably a lot of people are sending out, you have the opportunity to be able to create something that's yours in an efficient way as well. So let's just chat a little bit about that technical side before we move into the live version, because I want to be able to explain that as well. And then, so with this, what we call is the technical side of it is how to get what you want from, like, in great content from ChatGPT. And how you do this is through what we call prompts. And if you have not used it before, just kind of dipped your toe into ChatGPT. And those are vital to getting really what you want out of it. The better you refine your prompts, the better the outcome. And so telling Chat who you are, who your audience is, and what the combination of tone of voice you want to speak in, and then going from there and refining, refining, refining. So if you don't know what type of voice you speak in, totally fine. What I would recommend is, if you've had anything that you've written in the past, put that into copy, paste it, and paste it into ChatGPT. And the prompt or direction that you could give ChatGPT is, can you explain the voice or tone that is being spoken in this, text, so I can use it in direction to ChatGPT? Or you can just say, can you describe the voice and the tone that this is being spoken in? And it will literally tell you. You can then take that information and use it within your directions. If you haven't written anything by yourself, but you like the tone and feel like maybe somebody else that you follow or something like that you really like, and like, if I were to speak, like, this is how I feel I would speak, right? You could take a couple of those and do the same thing, copy and paste, and say, can you please provide the tone of voice that this is speaking in? And then you can take that information and provide that direction to give it in your tone of voice. And then, of course, you'll probably want to refine it a little bit from there as well. But ultimately, your success with ChatGPT lies within your own expertise and being able to give that information over to ChatGPT as well and provide it and direct it. So let's take a look a little bit more of kind of what it looks like in the real life of a real estate agent in regards to that. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to log into ChatGPT. I think I could do this right here. So if everybody can see my screen of ChatGPT, I think this might be the easiest. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So when you first log in, if you have not, you have not used it before, make it a little bit bigger. This is what it looks like when you first log in. Again, you do have the option to have the app and online. I like to have both because I find that when I'm out or doing something, like, even if you're literally at an open house and you're like, I need to do a posting for this, maybe you've created a reel or something like that, you could actually put together like the direction or prompt on ChatGPT on your phone, say, can you create the content for a reel that would produce likes and shares? And I want to be able to describe it. And you just kind of content dump about all the things that you want to feature in there. Can you create a post for me? It will create that post. And for me, I'm like, okay, can you add emojis? Can you add the title? Can you add the hashtags? That sort of thing. And then I'll add that for you, copy, and you paste it into your Instagram. And then you could post it live, as long as you don't need to make any edits or anything like that. So that's one way as well. So with that being said, is that this is kind of what it looks like. When they first came out, they had a few different versions. So originally, I think it was like 3.5 or 3.0. Anyways, it's grown a lot, right? So I have the paid version, and then there's the free version and the paid version. If you're just getting into it, just sign up for the free version. It's really useful. It's super helpful. With the paid version, you get more options. It's takes less refinement, I've found, within the paid version of getting feedback from ChatGPT. You also have access to things like this, exploring GPTs, where they're now creating more applications within ChatGPT itself. So if you want to use it for specific things like writing assistant, code tutor, like that's specifically what this kind of like application within an application is used for. But in all honesty, like I said, I use it every day and I don't really use any of these. I've tried some of them and I'm like, yeah, well, I can do this on ChatGPT as well. So it kind of just depends on what you like. As a note, I do get asked a lot about images, and there are other applications outside of ChatGPT that do images. It is my perspective that this is still in growth mode, and some of the images you're like, no, that's not something I'm going to use. But if you ask ChatGPT to like create something for you, it can to a certain degree, but maybe you want to recreate it on your own in Canva, or you can use it to direct if you're working with a designer or something like that, like colors, like, positioning of things and that sort of thing. And at this point, that's how I use it. But that's just a little side note as well. So from there, like I said, I am in the paid version, and then it has, when you first come in, a few different things, to kind of help you if you want to look at those. And then you can kind of see here on the left-hand side, it saves all the moments that you're using ChatGPT. So like this here, I wanted to create something and then I messaged ChatGPT, and unless you're erasing that, it will save it on the left-hand side. So you can actually go back to it and start from where you left off as well. So then you can just go in and erase it if you don't want it. There's these three little dots here. You click into here. You can share that particular one with somebody. So let's say you want to be like, okay, I created this, and maybe it's a part of your team or something else like that. Maybe you did something that you want to share and you're like, okay, they can work off this, or they can see my prompts and things like that. You can share that with them, and then it'll send it to whoever you want to send it. It creates a link, and then you can put it in your email and send it to them. It will only be for this particular prompt, and they can work off from where you left off as well. So, I mean, it's very useful, especially if you have teams, and then you can also rename them. So let's say if you're like, okay, what was I doing there? Like, how am I going to remember that? Then you just rename it and you can change the name. And so it's, easy for you to remember. What also works really well is, like I said, if you're using it on your app and you're like, okay, I'm going to leave it here. And then you are at your computer later in the day, you bring that up and then you start from where you left off. That helps quite a bit as well. You can also work, they have an option now, obviously the individual version, which is what I have. And then it kind of tells you a little bit about, you get early access to new features. Again, this is a paid version, it's $20, but I always recommend the free version to start off with. It has more advanced data analysis. You can have file uploads, and it has the Dolly image generation. And so, like I said, this is still in the works. It's still what I would probably consider very beta. And then creating and using those custom GPTs that I mentioned before as well. You also have a team option. So if you want to create like a workspace for your team, you can do that as well. And the minimum is 2 users. So with that, kind of getting a layout of what it looks like. A lot of the time what I'll do is, let's say I know a lot of people really struggle with social media and content and things like that. So maybe let's start there. So some of the ways, and I mentioned too, is you want to be able to give the opportunity to personalize it for yourself. And so I'm going to show you how to create, yes, not only social media. Let's take a look at, maybe let's use Instagram for the example. And then we're going to take a look at creating content for that, but also using that content in multiple ways. So it really optimizes your time, and you could almost create a strategic theme for all of your content. So we'll take a look at social media, or take a look at blog, and then we'll take a look at email as well, and using that same content in 3 ways. So let's take a look at that. So here I'm going to put in there, I'm just going to start with this. I need to feed it some information. So here I'm going to type in and just say, And you don't have to like, I say please and thank you, but like literally ChatGPT, you don't need to do that. But I'm going to say I am a real estate agent. Move this up a little bit. Let's see. There we go. In the St. Petersburg area of Florida. I have been an agent for 5 years. So what I'm doing here is you don't have to pattern it exactly like this, but the idea behind this is I want to provide some of that information about me so ChatGPT can use it in the application of where I'm going to with the content, because I want to make it personalized for me and I want to create that connectedness with my audience and my potential audience. So I've been an agent for 5 years. I specialize in the now you don't have to be the perfect speller. But I also have, this over here is, Grammarly. And so I actually just have that installed on my computer. So if you log in, you don't see it on yours, that's why it's just a separate application. It just helps with spelling and grammar and things like that. I specialize in the St. Pete area and mainly represent sellers. I want to create a week of social media posts and reels for the next week. And what I like to do, so I'm directing it, but what I also like to do is give a little bit more information about me. So what are those kind of like unique things about me that would be a little bit different than others? And this could be not real estate related, right? But something that could help with being connected to my audience. So if I think about who my audience is, and maybe I'm dealing with, majority of the sellers that I represent are families, or that are maybe empty nesters, or kind of having those customer profiles in your mind. And if you're not sure who those customer profiles are, you can actually create them in ChatGPT as well. So it's say I want to create it for the next week, and I work a lot with families and empty nesters. Let's see here. Some of my hobbies include golf. Let's see here, reading and watching Netflix. Okay, so that could be in relation also, they're kind of complementary to my audience as well. So maybe some of my hobbies, golf, it's great to know like what are all the golf courses in this area, right? We could talk about them. That's great content for days. Reading, there's maybe like book clubs people get interested in or things like that. I'm also a big like Audible listener. So I could also say reading and Audible listening and watching Netflix, right? It's because how many times do you get asked, or if you're on Facebook or social media, like, does anybody have anything to watch on Netflix, right? So there's an opportunity is there. And it creates kind of like, there's a personal connection with me, but it also is like accented of real estate and kind of that life idea as well. And say, I want to create posts that will get people to follow me, engage, and know what I can offer as a real estate agent. I want to create lifelong clients and be known for the person that is able to sell homes efficiently and effectively and have my clients not worry about the transaction. Okay, so it could be any of those things, right? That's just kind of what I'm putting around, a little bit about you. And I could say, please create this week of posting ideas for me. Okay, and I put that in. And again, this is all being recorded. And so it goes in and says, okay, now the thing about this, it's going to kind of spit out quite a few different things. And this is specifically for Instagram, right? And so with that, if you don't like certain things, you can also say in the prompt, say, okay, I like all of them except for day one. These are the things I didn't like about it. Can you change and get me other ideas? So with that, it says, here's a week of social media posts and real ideas to show your expertise and build client engagement while incorporating your personal touch. Day one, introduce post reel, a warm introduction highlighting your passion for helping families and empty nesters and selling their home stress free. Caption, it creates the caption for you. Again, if you don't like it, you can refine it and say, yeah, I don't really like this. Can you do this a little bit differently? I'm Jen, a St. Pete local, real estate agent, golf lover, and audiobook enthusiast. I specialize in helping families and empty nesters transition to their next chapter. Whether it's selling your home or helping you find your next one, I'm here to make it seamless and worry-free as possible. And then St. Pete real estate. Visual, real of you walking through a listing, doing something related to personal hobbies, maybe holding a golf club or talking about real estate. So what I would probably go back and do is I can even say, these are great. Can you add a call to action in each one, right? So we go through and say, like, what do you want them to do and how do you want them to do it? Day two, home selling tips and posts, gives you the caption idea, gives you the visual. Day three, client testimonials. Day four, local spot highlight, showcase a favorite local spot. So even if you don't want to post every day, you're like, oh, I'll take 3 of these and that'll work, right? I'll take 3 of these and that'll work. So day five, do you know real estate facts? So this could be something that's more localized or, within the home selling process. And behind the scenes, call to action post, encourage followers to reach out to you thinking about selling. So you could have a call to action each one, or if you just want to have one, you could do that as well. So let's say that we like all of these. Okay. And we're like, okay, this is fantastic. I'm going to start putting these together. I can do a few reels. Now, like I said, if you don't like those, you can just refine them and tell it, say, okay, I like days 3 through 5, but I don't like the other 2, or can you rewrite them? Or if you don't like any of them, say, great, but I don't like these. Can you come up with some other options? It'll do that for you as well. So let's just go on the fact that, okay, we like these, but now I'm like, okay, how can I use more of this? And say, okay, now I know I need to have a blog. And I'm like, because one is that blogging can really help with your search engine optimization. I have moved across the US 3 times, right? I have talked to multiple people that have moved across the US, and what do the majority of them all do? Is that you have an idea of the area that you like. Like, let's say I lived in this little town in Pacific Grove in California, and I'm like, towns like Pacific Grove, California on the East Coast, right? This is what happens. And so if you're looking for a smaller town, or if you're looking for something more eclectic or something like that, then this content comes up based on maybe things written in blogs, things said in videos and things like that, like on YouTube. And this is how a lot of people find things that I've talked to that have moved across US that are not like driven or have to be in a certain area, right? So with that, let's say I want to create a blog post. I want to create, let's see here. Let's go for two blog posts. And I would like to use 2 of the content ideas from above. Can you please turn 2 of these ideas for me into a blog post, into 2 blog posts? I want to make sure it is SEO friendly and has a high potential to reach customers. Now, at this point, you could even define your customers even more. So my customers are people that are looking to sell their home in the next 3 to 6 months, or need more information on local areas. Okay, so we have that. So I'm going to push enter. Now, It was probably caked with misspellings. That's okay. Here are 2 blog posts based on your content themes, optimized for SEO and tailored to attract sellers in St. Pete area. So blog post 1, title 3 must-do tips for preparing your home for selling in St. Pete. Okay, it goes through the body. It goes through the introduction. Now, you don't want to obviously use this word. You take that out. You want to read through it. And what I usually recommend is obviously you don't want to use the word body in there. But put it maybe into a Google Doc, a Word doc, something like that. Read through it. If you want to make any corrections, you can, or you can do it within ChatGPT and say, I like this, but I don't like this. Can you take that out? So you can see, okay, here's the body, here's the conclusion. You have blog post 1, you have blog post 2. Why now is the perfect time to sell your home in St. Petersburg. So you could do different ideas. You can even like maybe showcase a certain neighborhood a little bit more and say, hey, I want to showcase this neighborhood. And you could actually say the neighborhood to ChatGPT and it'll create information for you. Now you just want to make sure that information is correct based on your own knowledge and things like that. So now I have 2 blog posts, right? I'm like, fantastic. Okay, these blog posts are designed so SEO friendly. So now I have an entire week's worth of Instagram posts and reels. Now I also have 2 blog posts I can use on my website. And now I'm like, let's go a little bit, maybe an extra and say, I want to use something that I can turn into an email. And also what I recommend is if you're going to do a blog post, do a YouTube video out of it as well, because YouTube is the 2nd highest search engine next to Google itself. So let's do the YouTube video first, and then we'll do the email. So here it's like, okay, great. Love these. I'm going to say, can you add 1 more blog post that is more neighborhood driven? Okay, so let's have it create 1 more blog post that's more neighborhood driven. And so highlighting areas in St. Pete. So why Old Southeast St. Petersburg is a perfect place to call home. Perfect. That's a neighborhood I'm familiar with. It's a great little fun little neighborhood. Okay, and then you have the introduction, you have the body again. You don't want to leave the word body in there. And then it goes through this. I'm like, okay, that's the one I think I want to use for a video. So with that, you have all the stuff still being put out. It gives you little SEO tips also as you're writing for that blog post, which I love. You have your conclusion. So I'm like, okay, I love this one. Now, so let's prompt it now. Can you create a script for a see here, for a YouTube video I can use on my channel? Please include a call to action as well. Include, and then let's see, now can you create a script from this blog post above for a YouTube channel? Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. And then now here's a YouTube script based on the neighborhood-driven blog post about Old Southeast in St. Petersburg. This script is structured to flow naturally while keeping your audience engaged. It includes a clear call to action at the end. Okay, so this is great, but now if you're like, okay, I'm reading this, and as you get going, you'll be able to add this in at the beginning and things like that. So if you know that voice that you write in, you're going to want to say, write it in this particular type of voice, and it'll help you with that as well. And then opening scene, you're walking or standing in a centric old spot in Southeast with views of charming homes or a park in the background. And then with this, hey, everyone, it gives you your script, gives you your script again. You can even like, okay, this is great. I don't want to move around that much, right? You're like, okay, fantastic. You can say, okay, can you please create create a video that is about 3 minutes with the information above. And then, so it's shorter. Let's say it's 3 minutes. We want to have the information that we're using from above. And can you give ideas where I do not have to appear on screen? Let's try that. So it'll give that to you as well. Here's a revised 3-minute script where you don't have to appear on screen with suggestions for visuals and voiceovers to make it engaging. So it actually gives you can see how as you direct it, it's giving it what you want and the way that you want it. So if you're like, hey, yeah, this is great, but I don't really want to appear on YouTube, which I recommend at some point, right? But if you want to create other content that you're just doing a voiceover with video or something like that, just to maybe get it out quicker, you can do that as well. And it gives you that voiceover, kind of gives you an idea of what footage you should be using and or even pictures that you want to put together. You can use that as well. Also gives you visual suggestions, historic homes, B-rolls, things like that. And B-rolls are just like videos, if you're not familiar with it, without you in it, right? It's just like as you're talking, people can have that visual connection with it as well. Okay, now it also gives you recommendations on tools you can use. So stock footage, simple graphics, text animations, and different voiceover recordings as well. So, okay, we have all these things. We have the week-long of posts. We have the blog posts. Now we have a YouTube video script, all from the same content. And then at the end, let's say, great, now I want to create a newsletter featuring the same information. Please write with my friendly but professional voice. Okay, so now we're going to create the newsletter. And then, like I said, if you don't like the subject line, you could do something like that. If you want to incorporate this into a regular newsletter that you already use, you can say, hey, I want to use this content to put in as a featured area of content within my regular newsletter. This is how it's set up, things like that. So say, hi, hoping you're doing well. And so it can be personalized to how you want to create it as well. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas. The real estate market is hot, a tight-knit community thinking about selling, let's talk. And it does create that little call to action at the end. And then you can copy and paste this, put it in your CRM, put it into your Gmail, whatever the case may be, and send it out. Now, the reason I like reusing content like this is because a lot of the time your audience will not see both of these things. And if they do, that's perfectly fine, right? Because sometimes that video is a little bit different than that newsletter, even though it's pretty much the same content. So it does help you in regards to getting out there as well, like that. Let me get that does anybody have any questions? I'm going to get the QR code out for everyone so you could see that as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat as well. I know it's a lot. So I try, and that's why I kind of like to go through kind of the understanding of ChatGPT and then giving you some real life usage. I think the biggest thing I think to take away is that don't be afraid to use it. Start thinking of it in forms of asking questions. And if you're like struggling with something in an area like this, like social media, like blog posting, if you're kind of fearful of YouTube, start asking it questions in those areas. And I think for time utilization and strategy as well, is kind of like thinking in regards to how can I use this for my business? How can I use it in more than one way? And how can I optimize my time? And so kind of thinking in that way, I think will really help everyone as well. So, oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So like I said, if you have any questions that you think of later on, just let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll be sending out the presentation, the deck, and then I'll also send out the recording so you can go back and watch it if you like. And then, of course, I'll send over the ChatGPT prompt guide, but this actually goes to my little landing page for the QR code. And right at the top of the landing page is that ChatGPT guide as well. Well, thank you all so much. I hope you all have a great rest of your week and go out there and do great things. All right. Thank you. Have a great week. Bye.